my name's Paul, and this is my review of the Canon 50D and the Magic Lantern RAW hack. The Canon 50D was released in 2008, and it was one of the first cameras to have the Digic 4 processor. That processor was in a lot of Canon cameras from that point on, notably the 5D Mark II and the T2i both had a Digic 4 processor. The 50D is a great RAW camera for a couple of reasons, but the main one is that it has a CF card slot. The big benefit to the CF card slot is the massive read and write speeds that those cards have compared to SD cards, at least the bandwidth that Canon allows through it. Because on the T2i, there's only 20 megabyte per second bandwidth by the camera, but on the Canon 50D, there's a 70 megabyte per second read and write speed. That significant throughput allows RAW video to be possible, and that's the main reason why this camera is even looked at for RAW video. To be able to even get this bandwidth that you need for RAW, you have to have a CF card, and those CF cards are not cheap. I bought a 64 gigabyte 1000 times compact flash card from Computer Bay. Now, it was $130, but because I'm also doing a whole lot of data transfers, I also got a USB 3.0 CF card reader. So now I can transfer data to my computer at about as fast as my hard drive can handle it. The camera has a very solid build quality, but moire is an issue, which was really frustrating, and if you watch any Philip Bloom's things, you know he has issues with that as well. Mosaic Engineering made a little filter that you can put on over the sensor that'll take away a lot of the moire. They made it for the 5D Mark II, but now they just released it for the 50D, but it's $300, and you're buying a $400 camera basically. So if you're going to spend $400 on a camera and $300 on a filter, you may just want to wait and save up and buy a different camera. There is no audio input on the Canon 50D. Now this may not seem like a big deal, but if you're using it for production work, and especially for me where I have to sync a lot of audio, it's a pain, especially now that I've gotten used to the automatic syncing through Adobe CC and Premiere Pro. Also, when you're shooting RAW, you're writing and reading a lot of information at the same time. The battery dies very quickly. You can counteract that by buying more batteries and by putting a battery pack on the bottom, the battery grip. But, I mean, there's nothing you can really do about it. It just takes more power to run RAW. So this is just a quick demonstration of the H.264 versus RAW files. Right now you're seeing the H.264 file coming out of the Canon 50D, and on the left you're seeing the RAW file from the Canon 50D. Just take a look at it and look at the detail from the RAW compared to the H.264, especially down here under the bench in the shadows. The detail and the color dynamic range that there is with the RAW is just awesome. And if you look at the windows, you can see how the highlights were really brought back and gave a very, very good dynamic range, and it didn't lose out on the natural roll-off. And if you look at the grain in the wood, it's just an all-over more sharp image. Even though the H.264 file is technically a higher resolution at 1920 by 1080, the RAW file scales very well and beats the 1920 by 1080 counterpart, which is why I think it's very usable for films, whether it's going on television or a computer. So in conclusion, the 50D gets some amazing video. It's an incredible camera for $400 plus a $100 CF card, so $500 you're getting a RAW video camera. That's incredible. But on the other side, you're paying $500 for a RAW camera. There's no audio, there's moire, and it's not full frame, which really frustrates me because I feel like I'm missing out. So if you're going to spend $500, maybe you should consider getting a different camera. The 5D Mark II is $1,400 and the 6D is $1,450. Those both are full frame cameras that can shoot RAW because they have CF cards, and they're great. Now, maybe RAW isn't as important as everybody makes it out to be, and I definitely don't use it for production work. I use it for just for fun sometimes. And so if you want to spend $500 for fun on a camera, that's great. Another camera you might want to look at is the GH2 by Panasonic. It can be hacked to have a higher bit rate, which will give some more detail when you start zooming in. I think that's better for production work, especially because I don't want to be dealing with raw video every single time I have to do a video. It's too cumbersome and the benefits are not good enough. Now, if I'm shooting a short film or just something for fun, raw is more capable. So, I mean, I guess that's the point. If you want raw video and it's worth $500 to you, that's great. But I definitely think you need a normal AVC-HD, H.264 camera that doesn't shoot RAW for daily workflows. But all in all, it's a good camera. Okay, so once you've captured your footage, you're gonna need to import it into the computer and get it to an editable format. Sadly, my screen capture software didn't work, and now I have to redo the entire tutorial, so I don't have those .raw files anymore. So if you go to your folder that you have your CF card folder, you'll go to 100 DCIM and you'll see a whole bunch of .raw files. So you're going to want to bring those into your computer. And so now what you need to do is convert those to DNG files. And I do that with a program called RAWinizer. So if you open up RAWinizer, what it'll do is give you this GUI, and you're going to want to select decrawl and only extract DNG from RAW. Now there's a whole bunch of ways to do this process, but this is personally the way I like to do it. So you select folder, and you select the folder that you have your .raw files in, and it'll bring up them all right here. And you select over here under folder where you want to export those DNGs, and then you just click start, and it'll go through and it'll process them. And what happens is you get a folder like this file, but if you're working with multiple clips, you can do import multiple files. And sort of the way that would work is you go over here to your DNG folders, select your first DNG, and then every time you open a DNG file, it opens Adobe Camera Raw by default. This is where you're going to want to make your settings, pull back your highlights, your shadows, that sort of thing, and use the full potential of RAW. And then when you click OK, it'll give you the option to open up another file. So this is the file that I'm going to use for our example here. I already have it graded kind of the way that I want. So I'm going to click OK and close out of this. And so now what you're going to want to do is interpret footage main and set it to the frame rate you set your FPS override to, which I set it to 23.976. And if you want to, you can go over here to remember interpretation, and then if you can select a whole bunch of clips and apply interpretation, so that way you don't have to do it individually for each one. So now I'm going to drag this footage in and make a new composition, and if you want to, you can drag multiple clips in to make multiple compositions at the same time. Now there's a couple ways to grade this footage, and I'm only going to talk about two of them. One is to grade it directly in Adobe Camera Raw, but someone has created what's called film stock LUTs, which basically the LUT stands for lookup tables, which is a common term used in video color grading, and the film stock has been created to emulate film stock. But to do this, I'm going to go over here to Effect, Apply Color Lut, and the first one I need to apply is this log, which flattens out the image and prepares the footage to have the film stock LUT on it. And so the next thing I'm going to do is Effect, Utility, Apply Color Lut, and you'll see all of my different film stocks I can choose from. I personally like this Codec 2393 here, and I think this footage is a little bit dark, so what I can do is I can go over here and right click and replace footage with file and select that DNG again, and now I can brighten up the footage just slightly, and you'll see that it's been applied right here. So that's kind of the way that I go about editing it, and I'll put a link in the description to all the files I talk about. So now that I have my footage graded, I'm going to export it using Adobe Media Encoder. So I'm going to click on the composition I like. I want to export composition, add to Adobe Media Encoder, and if you select them in the bin, you can add multiple compositions to the media encoder at the same time. So what's going to happen is it's going to pull it in here, and the interchange format that I like is a GoPro Cineform, which is a free download. The free version allows you to export to 422. If you want to pay for it, you can get 444 and a very compressed RAW format, which allows for more flexibility later on. But personally, for me, this is great. So then, you just click OK. You tell it where to export, and you have a very high resolution interchange format. And so once you have your footage in here that you need, you just click this little play button and it'll encode the footage for you. So I have Premiere Pro open, and based on what you told the Cineform file to do, whether it be AVI or .mov, that's what you'll have. And you'll have an AVI or MOV file that you can just drag into Premiere Pro. New sequence. And then you just drag and drop your footage. And you have a very editable file that you can work with. So now these files are already graded. You can add some more grading if you want. This is just kind of the way that I do my workflow. There's no right way to do it. It's whatever you want to do. But for me, this is the way that I can get the best footage with the least amount of work. Hey, thanks for watching. So currently I'm a student at the University of Louisville, and I'm going to be transferring to the Western Kentucky University in the fall. And I'm going to be studying film there. I'm probably going to be making some more videos, most of them, if not all of them, related to film. So if you'd like to, click subscribe, and hey, it'll keep you up to date on what I'm doing, and maybe you'll like some of the videos I put out.